I'm a strong no again today, and I encourage you to think carefully before you agree to this. It's a hemp revival for our own survival. It's a hemp revival for our own survival.
We have lost so much because of hemp prohibition.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. Hempdemic 2020 docu-songwriting I Planted Hemp Today is on YouTube now. Hold on! We're also doing a live screening of it April 23rd, Friday, April 23rd, with a discussion. Be there! You will find out more about how HB847 was passed and the issues it presents for Georgia hemp farmers, processors, businesses, and you.
And I'm ready.
Our next order of business is SB195 that also got sent back for more consideration from rules. And not seeing Chairman Mullis here, he and I talked, but Vice Chair
Actually, Representative Gravely is not vice chair of any committee, but he is secretary of the Judiciary Non-Civil Committee, which is not related, as many have been punished for cannabis cultivation.
Is here to explain the addition to this bill.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I get a copy of this? I don't want to take one of the members, but thank you, Chairman.
We can go to his profile and see what his sponsored legislation is. And we see, oh, he likes hemp. He has HB645 in the docket.
Taylor? Welcome to the Agricultural and Consumer Affairs Committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank each one of you. This bill is a bill that we voted on in the House unanimously. It passed unanimously. This is what was House Bill 645. And it was simply a cleanup that the Access to Medical Cannabis Commission that this body created for the last 2 years have gone through hardships of essentially getting this right. We've got advisement from the Attorney General's office. We've got advisement from the lawyers in DOAS that this bill that was put together in House Bill 645 would answer a lot of the questions, would tie up a lot of the loose ends. And so we put that in here. The bill is also sitting in Senate Health, but after speaking with the Rules Chairman in the Senate, he gave me approval to put it onto this bill.
Let's reiterate how that worked. The Rules Chairman in the Senate gave him permission to put it onto SB195. If you didn't know, the Rules Chairman of the Senate is Jeff Mullis, author of this bill. So are these just placements also to receive substitutes? You know, just like having extra Pac-Man lives, like you can win so you can continue to the next level even if a ghost eats you? Okay, back to what we're talking about here. Since SB195 already passed the Senate, all he needs to do is pass the House. So HB645, since it already passed the House, will basically be voted on by the House again instead of perhaps dying in the Senate Health Committee. But it will be disguised as SB195, which already passed the Senate.
Now, some questions may arise about the fact that 195 is entitled to, and House Bill 645 is entitled 16. But I will remind the committee, and I think all of us should know, that the hemp plant and the marijuana plant are the same species.
No. Too bad the lawmakers weren't so open about that when they made it illegal almost 100 years ago.
So these are subjects of similarity. Putting in here, both deal with cultivation, albeit in two different types of cultivation, but both deal with cultivation.
Now that's a good point. The cultivation of cannabis is a beautiful thing. Why not unite both medical and industrial hemp and put them both in Title II?
We also appropriated in this House a large amount of money. Chairman Watson, after sitting and having several hearings with the executive director of the Access to Medical Cannabis hearing, talking about the needs and the problems that they had to get around with the State Purchasing Act, things that we're going to be mindful of going forward. The ability to have this delivered to those hemp patients that are unable to get out of their homes to get the medicine that we legally say in this state they can have. So this was just simply a vehicle that, Mr. Chairman, we have put House Bill 645 in. Matter of fact, it's my understanding that if there is too much of a conflict in title, which I don't believe that there would be due to the similarity of the plants, that we could strike the hemp portion of the bill and then let it just be solely what was in House Bill 645.
Thank you, Bradley. Questions from our Chairman Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question's on the banking part of the credit union. Does this clear up what they need to be able to, for bank accounts for people that just growing the cannabis to be able to open bank accounts and transact with the banks and credit unions?
Yes, sir, it does, and thank you for the question. The credit union approached us as we were writing 645 and asked to be included. They had asked to not be included in House Bill 324, that was passed in 2019, but specifically came to us this year and asked if they could be a part of the process, that they would like to be included with the banks. Thank you, sir.
I'm glad to have you join into our Hemp Farming Act.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Corbett, Section 1 of the bill, is that portion in your bill that we passed?
That portion is in 336, House Bill 336, which we passed, and the Senate passed last week as well.
So
we could strip it out if there's any.
Hempdemic Part 2, coming soon, will feature the HB336 testimonies where we successfully lowered the $50,000 processing fee to $25,000, which is still way too high.
If there's an issue with it, we can strip it out. There's not an issue.
like it, I think we would be in place to do that. That would give you more comfort.
I'm at whatever the pleasure of the committee is. If the committee's okay with it, if y'all want to strike it out, I think that that would solve any type of title question, for sure.
For sure.
For sure. I like the circus, Mommy.
But I think that because of the fact that plants are of the same species, you've got a similar subject.
Yeah, I feel like we do. I mean,
Okay.
it's the same species.
I would certainly like to strike the hemp portion out of this, because my fear all along has been that it was just a matter of time before the hemp and marijuana, medical cannabis,
Thank you for correcting yourself. Medical cannabis.
Keep it straight, Buster.
ran together, and we would likely cross-pollinate and bring the THC level up too high in the hemp to continue to be able to use it. But
He's making a joke. He's saying they'll cross-pollinate just in the bill, through the words. Since when are they allowed to be so silly in these meetings? So silly.
I think that's the right thing to do. Take hemp off of this, where it'll just be
Absolutely.
medical cannabis. And I'd make a motion that we do that, strike the hemp portion.
Okay.
I don't know, Scribbles. I think he might be serious. I think he just needs to be educated a little more. I mean, there's rigorous testing programs, so it's not like you can keep using the hemp if it cross-pollinates and get higher THC. Oh, and if you haven't noticed, what Georgia is calling medical cannabis is low THC oil, which is not more than 5% THC, which is almost what natural hemp is. I mean, natural hemp is maybe 1 or more percent. This 0.3% restriction is ridiculous, as you can hear is explained in some of my other videos linked below. I don't think he quite understands what's going on here.
Hearing that motion, do I have a second?
Touch that on this.
I have a second. Any other discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes to strike Section 1. So now, Representative Mitchell, do you have a question?
Yes, I do, actually. I have a question on the university portion, so line 722 to 732. I think the provision on universities only deals with THC oil. Is that by intent, or do you want that to also say and products?
Well, Representative Mitchell just pointed out was that when this bill talks about university cannabis research, it's limited to the low THC oil, whereas one of the benefits of this bill is it expands the legality of other cannabis products defined as tincture, transdermal patch, lotion, or capsule. But that also is low THC oil delivered in these ways, so it might not matter that product wasn't included.
Trying to be very cautious here that if we were to allow the products, the oil would be the base of it. That the oil would give them the ability to study exactly what they needed to study for research purposes. So there wasn't a need for them to have products. Now, we could add that. I don't have a problem with it, because all they will be doing is is studying what the licensee allows them to study. And
Right.
just so for the committee's purposes, the only two universities, I think there was someone misspoke in the Senate. The two land-grant universities, the University of Georgia and Fort Valley State, are still the only ones that have opportunity to have a license and actually grow. And they have not accepted that yet. And so what this bill does also removes that mandate. So if they want to do it and they want to apply for the NIDA designation, which would be the National Institute of Drug Abuse, they can do that. That'll always be there for them. But we had 5 other universities that said, we have no interest in growing, we have no interest in cultivating, we simply have specialties at our universities that our doctors work on, and specifically would like to study this oil and report back to the cultivators. This is what our research found and how this affects prostate cancer, how this affects Alzheimer's, dementia. And so that's the type of data we need. Working in tandem with the Medical Association of Georgia, I think, would be fantastic. If products would be available, and let me also state this, there was some confusion there.
Before we continue with this confusing video, I'd like to interrupt this confusion with some clarity about a word from our sponsor, my BANDCAMP channel. I got a question. How you gonna change the world? Are you gonna be the change, or are you gonna wait for change to rearrange you? How you gonna change the world? True love's not a secret. You know loud and clear, and listen one, listen all. If you want inspiration, call on a flying penguin. We'll fly out resuscitation. Don't you want a car that runs on cannabis? Don't you want a car that runs on cannabis? I make an outstanding agreement to honor and respect cannabis. On my BANDCAMP channel, you can find the soundtrack to Hempdemic and so much more. And this Friday, April 2nd, BANDCAMP is waiving their revenue share, so it's a perfect time to support your girl, Aviva and the Flying Penguins, and grab some tracks today.
The only products we allow in this state, low THC oil would be the tincture, would be the transdermal cream, the gelatin capsule, and then the syringe, I don't forget what that's called.
Dropper.
Sublim. So that's all. This is not adding smoking.
Wait, what about Bruce Dietzon's new cannabis card? Can we add that to the products?
This is not adding gummy bears or edibles or anything like that. So those products could be studied at the university. If that motion comes forward, I would not be opposed to it, but right now I think the universities would have what they need.
Does that answer your question, Representative Mitchell?
Page 28, line 709 actually does say that commission charges requirements for colleges and universities located within the state board possess undefined.
Representative Mitchell, I think it does. You probably couldn't hear that, but I think you were referring back to some other language that does cover what your maybe concerns are.
Line 709.
Knowledge is products. Okay, getting back to Bill, any other questions for Representative Grabler? Chairman Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a little more background on for the committee. As you know, we passed this law. We've allowed for this to happen in our state. They're going to start production in our state this year. We've already collected money from applicants, and contracts will be awarded to those applicants that can actually grow cannabis in our state. So it will happen in this year. So we need this bill to make sure that it's regulated and controlled, and the money has been appropriated in the budget to allow them personnel to do that. So everything is in place, but we need this bill to allow people to have access to it and to do the things that we've already told the people of Georgia that we will do. So thank you for getting all this worked out.
take me over to.
Hearing no other questions or comments, Representative Benton.
If I can use this mic right here.
Absolutely. Number
Thank
6.
you.
What number is
Number
that?
6. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to add on to what Chairman Watson stated, this bill has been worked on and passed, and I voted for it before, and I will vote for it today. My question today is there someone in this room or listening online that can help me learn more about this medical cannabis commission? I heard you mention about the applicants and all of that process. I'm just totally lost on that process. So if there's anyone that can help me learn more about that, I would certainly appreciate it. But I will be supporting this bill because I supported it all the way through before. So thank you.
Any other comments?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
If I could make a final comment to Representative Bentley's question, we do have a website here, Georgia Access to Medical Cannabis. You can read who the members are. They've got a year-end report that they've submitted, and it's all encompassing information on there.
I got one. We got one other. Nobody's in a quick hurry. Aviva, you got any words of wisdom for us? This bill brought up your alley.
I'd be honored to talk for a minute if possible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We got a lot of other business.
Thank you.
We'll give you a minute.
No, I really appreciate it. I just have a couple of questions for the committee to consider for next year, I suppose. One is one of the biggest challenges I've heard is to actually fund the hemp program. So since the applicant fees are so expensive in the medical cannabis, I'm wondering if some money can be funneled towards the hemp program. The other thing that is an absolute concern of mine is that the raw hemp product, as I've said a few times, is not allowed according to, I think, both the medical and the hemp, industrial hemp. And I think that's an issue because, you know, it's like the difference between raw peaches and dried peaches. And the science is there. When you juice the actual raw cannabis, there's so much medicine there. A lot of people say the smoking and the oil is the best form of medicine, but I think it depends on the individual. And so it's really good to have the options if we want to take care of our people. And one more thing I want to say is I understand your fear about there being like, it's the same plant. It is. And, you know, I've been rooting for industrial hemp before there was a definition of hemp being 0.3% THC or less. I've always considered it the same plant. And my biggest fear is that we wouldn't free this plant fast enough to help our environment with all of the environmental, you know, great things that hemp does for our environment. The trichomes clean the air when it's growing outside. It's great for the bees. It, you know, remediates the soil. And so my fear is that we're going to be so afraid of medical cannabis that industrial hemp will never be free. So one more thing is that I also have empathy for your need to support our industries here and the monopolies, so to speak, because I like shopping at Publix. I like shopping at Kroger, you know. But have you ever known someone who makes their own artisan bread to put out a big business? You know, have you ever known someone who makes homemade cookies to put out a bakery? So I think we don't need to be scared of having some kind of a home grow for especially the folks that cannot afford the expensive oil, but they deserve the medicine. So that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you. Appreciate those comments.
Thank you.
That's all the business I have today. Has anybody got anything else to bring before the committee? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
Well, it's a good thing they pulled this fast one because the next day...
All those in favor of this motion of do not pass for House Bill 645, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that right, Mr. Bill? All right.
Wait, there's 14 people in the committee. Maybe it'll pass after all.
So all those against that motion, you got 1, 2, 3. Motion passes, do not pass, and that bill is dead.
HB645 died in the Health Committee. We'll talk about SB202 in my next Sunday song. SB195
Need a second.
passed in the House.
All right, thank you.
March 25th. Do you feel lost like Gilligan? Don't worry, you're not the only one. Speaking of which, let's see who voted no on this vote. Gilligan. What a coincidence.
Certainly is nice to be able to follow the Rules Committee, because we sometimes take ourselves too seriously here at the Capitol, though I know we're doing the people's work.
People's work, eh? Don't you mean the people who run corporations?
We always need to keep things in perspective.
In my next Hempdemic short series, I'll summarize 645. Speaking of shorts, I've been meaning to encourage you to get those old ratty shorts and do an inspirational crochet. What's it called? Makeover. And I covered the holes with the crochet. Anyway, they're my favorite shorts now. Anytime you put your own energy into things, you know, it makes it better, right? So I'll do a video with some details about the bill, but let's just do some highlights now, shall we? If you'd like to support my channel, the many hours of editing, filming, and making a fool of myself, I posted links to my patreon.com, AATFP, and PayPal below. Oh, and by any chance, would you be interested in sponsoring my next video? Here we go, let's check out this
House
meeting.
Bill 645, I believe we have a substitute.
Let's
This one
explore.
has been
Why
heard.
didn't it
There have been
pass?
some changes. If Senator Brass would come in the door, hopefully they can hear us out there, and we can discuss this bill.
In 324, we by law, these companies, these 6 licensee holders, they have 12 months from the time they get their license to the time they have to put medicine on the shelf. 324, we never set up any form of dispensing. So there is literally 0 shelves to put it on. What I did was I took the state service delivery regions. There's 12 of them in this state. Y'all should have a map in your folders that looks like this. It shows 12 regions. Each of the 6 will get 2 dispensing permits or licenses, whatever we're calling them. And you're only going to have 1 in each region. So that's 12 dispensaries in the entire state. So obviously, Atlanta area, which is in Region 3, is going to be more desirable than probably, down in Region 10, down in Senator Burke's neck of the woods. What we've decided to do is auction them off. This isn't some new concept. Those of you that have sat on regulated industries and you're familiar with COAMs, and you're familiar with master licenses, we actually, the lottery auctions off master licenses, and that's actually where I got the idea from. To do it this way, but we're not setting a new precedent in state government, but basically what we're going to do is auction off each region until all 12 regions are gone and there's 12 dispensaries. On page 10, since we're auctioning off, if you look at lines 224 through 228, if we're going to auction them off, I don't feel like we need to have an application fee.
What happened to the pharmacists? Why did the pharmacists not want to be involved with the process? Because if they did, then we wouldn't need these dispensaries, period, right?
That's accurate, yes. And with marijuana still being in Schedule 1, I think there's a lot of them that are scared to risk putting their license at risk. I would like to leave them available should marijuana ever come out of Schedule 1. I feel like the pharmacies, independent pharmacies, would jump all over this opportunity.
Senator Calvert?
We had all these children that were having medical conditions that were of the opinion that cannabidiol oil type products, THC oil, were helpful. We crafted our bill, and this totally takes it away. This is a medicine. We wanted them to jointly develop these rules and regulations, and that, by the way, is stricken on line 8 from jointly adopting rules relating to this dispensing to separately adopting those rules. So this is a power play by the commission where they can now control the licensing process, push the pharmacies aside. We wanted pharmacists. Now we're auctioning these dispensing licenses to who's got the most money. What big corporation's going to outbid the smaller people? We're going to concentrate who can sell it. Let's just go ahead and say we're going to legalize recreational marijuana.
Okay, I think that's a great idea. You do know that there is a bill in the docket calling for a public vote on this, yes? It's sponsored by Representative David Clark, and it hasn't gotten very far. It's still sitting in the House Rules Committee, so maybe we need to knock on Richard's door, Representative Smith, and be like, hey, come on, let's get going with this. Anyway, House Resolution 281 is really quite simple. It basically says that the General Assembly shall provide by general law for the legalization and regulation of the production, sale, and blah, blah, blah. If you, the public, vote yes, let's do this. So what's the holdup, Representative Smith? Or are your committee members holding this back?
And let's just go ahead and get to the end game if that's where we're trying to get to here. I'm a strong no again today, and I encourage you to think carefully before you agree to this. Oh, well, there's too many churches in South Georgia, so let's take away the distance restrictions here of 1,000 feet, where they're prohibited from building these greenhouses where you're growing the pot, next to schools with your children, next to churches where you worship.
Senator Cowles brought up some great points. Some of it, I think he just flat out made up. I totally don't agree.
Let's be respectful.
And I'm trying to be.
To hear more of this debate about cannabis in Georgia, stay tuned for our next Hempdemic short, as well as Hempdemic Part 2. And if you haven't yet seen Hempdemic 2020, go right now to the link below and get up to speed before your friends start talking about it and you sit there, lost like Gilligan. And remember to join us for our Hempdemic Spring Hemp Festival. See you there!